Hey everybody, I'm going to give a quick tour of the Bartender 19 project that I'm working on. This won't be a unedited single cut tour, because to be honest, I have no idea what I'm going to talk about for it. So I found this boat, I found the hull on Craigslist, and it was upside down in a fella's garage down in Temecula, California. So what's that, 2,200 miles south of here? And we went back and forth. The fellow who had worked on it had passed away 3 or 4 years ago, and one of his children, his son, was selling the boat, and so we negotiated back and forth on Craigslist. And at a certain point, I drove down. I picked it up. It was last Easter weekend. I think I drove down there, and bit of an adventure. I used Haverchuck's trailer, and this boat was, when I got down there, it was in the garage. It was upside down on the building frame, on the building jig. And so we had to get it out of the garage where it had been for 16, 18, 20 years, down the driveway, and then upside down onto the trailer. And, weight-wise, we were okay on the trailer. Height-wise, width-wise, it was a little big for the trailer. So I got the thing jacked up over the wheels and cinched down the best I could. And I drove it across the back roads of California. I drove from Temecula up through LA to Ojai, and then across the big basin there, all the way to Fresno, where I ran into a friend of mine, Rob, who helped me. He and his family helped me get the boat off the building jig, and then we cut the building jig way down and got the height of the boat way down to a nice safe level where I could hop on 99 and then drove up to I-5 through Oregon, back home to Washington, here in Seattle. So the boat has been here. Thank you, Rob, by the way. So the boat has been here since, I guess, last April. And it was upside down, it was unpainted. The hull was complete, and it had been glassed. And then there was some primer on the hull as well. So I stripped the primer and I put on a 2-part epoxy primer, and then have some, I put some Grand Banks beige on there and some green, and then I've been working on the interior of the boat. So there was no deck on it at the time. I've been working on the interior of the boat. I did a clear epoxy across the interior, and then I've actually sealed up and varnished the Sapele ribbon planking. This planking, this plywood, isn't anything that you can really get anymore, and so it's really interesting to see materials purchased in 2001, 2, 3, 4 as the fellow worked on this boat, and he did a really nice, tidy, neat job. It's a beautiful base to be working on. One of the early first projects I did was go along the chine and begin to fill. I began to think about everywhere that water may gather, because what you want to do is, what I can tell, is get it down in the middle of the bilge where you can pump it back out if you need. So I worked on that for quite a while. I also worked on here on the false transom on this inboard well. And in 2004, when the keel was laid, the fellow who's building it, his expectation was he was going to get short shaft Mercury 2-stroke, because that's pretty much what people sold at the time. And now today, you really don't get a short shaft 2-stroke. You're going to get a 4-stroke long shaft. And so I needed to raise the transom from 16 inches up to 20 inches, which is what I've done. Once I purchase a motor, I'm still going to need to chip away here at the side, kind of do a little cutout so that the motor can swing back and forth. But I got to get a motor first. I'll probably get a 40-horse Yamaha. So looking forward, when I purchased the boat, there's that first deck beam, and then there was a second at station 2, and then there was a third at station 3. And I chopped out station 2 and 3 and ran the combing all the way forward. I'm going to do a small, kind of one-person dry storage cabin up there. And I think that, with a small laminated cabin, a bulkhead, I think it should be fine for strength. So let's see here. As of recent, I have decked I guess I faired out all the deck beams. That took forever. This is a very fussy boat to fair. And then I laid planking across the top. I decked it. And I just finished that up about 2 weeks ago. And so the last week or two, I've been coming back out here, making sure that all of the fasteners are seated. I seated the deck in Sikaflex 291 long open time. And what I found is as the Sikaflex kind of dried, some of these little fellas kind of came proud. And so I've had to, what I'll do is I'll walk along with a scraper, and if I scrape one, I'll pull the thing back out, re-countersink it, and drive it back down in. Once again, I'm gonna glass this with a 6-ounce fiberglass mat, and we'll run it over the corner, and then obviously you'll have an outwell, and there's a small like tow rail that's gonna run down to maybe station 5 or so. So there's quite a ways to go. Another little project that I did, in the old version of the plans, the back of the motor well wasn't tied into the boat, and so I added this sort of small bulkhead and then these cheeks to the back. I am interested in seeing, due to the length of the outboard, if I'm going to need to sort of trim the very back of the trunk, because you can see here it ends here, which probably would have worked great for a short shaft, but I'm probably going to need to slice here, back this up, maybe lay in another cheek, so that when the motor swings up, there'll be plenty of room. I'm going to do a quick tour, quick walk around. Let's take a look from the front. So this is the project. If I had to guess, I'll probably be done this summer. There's really no hurry, because honestly, who has $5 grand to blow on a motor right now? I do have a trailer for this, of course, at my house. It's out in the front yard, and it's going to take a little bit of work to get it set up just how I wanted it, but that shouldn't be a big deal. Let's take a look underneath here. It's a fascinating boat because it's pretty flat aft, but it's got this big motor well. There's a plug that drops in there. At some point I'll install that and show that. And so along with the plug, which creates a nice planing surface back there, you also have these fins, or these outer strakes, these sort of planing strakes. One other interesting thing about this shape is if you look along the chine, it's not a very big boat. It doesn't take a lot of energy, I don't think, to push this. So your initial buoyancy when you step in, I think it's going to be a little rolly. But I think that get a little weight in there and she's going to settle right down. Should be a pretty dry boat. Let's see, one other thing that I did, I'm trying to remember here, I laid in this combing. I think when I first got the boat, it had deck beams, it had stub deck beams all along the side, and I needed to lay this in, and this was quite a project. This is a lamination to get this back curve of about 3 pieces, and then it just runs out pretty flat, becomes a single piece, and then to get this last curve up forward, I think this is 2 pieces. And there is the Bartender 19. This boat's name is going to be Ed the Bartender, named after the original builder. Thank you so much.